I previously did a list of essential woman love woman comedies that are a must-watch, and now here is my list for essential dramas. Movies that are a must-watch for anyone wanting to get a bit of an education in Sapphic film and television. As with part 1, I will be including films that I have already referenced in other videos. Let's start with the thriller and horror genres. A genre that is not particularly my cup of tea, so I don't mean to suggest that the following few films are the only ones that should have made it onto this list. These are just the ones that I know of and I think that are worth checking out. Thelma is a supernatural thriller where Thelma begins to manifest strange powers when she feels an attraction to a girl at her university. Only this isn't the first time she's manifested these powers, but without her ability to control them, it's her emotions that are in control, with potentially deadly consequences. It looks at the idea of repressed feelings that I'm sure most queer people can relate to, and it's such a well-done film that does a good job of growing that disquiet tension. Highly recommended. This biographical crime drama follows the female serial killer Aileen Wuornos, a prostitute that kills a client when he attempts to rape her, which she confesses to her girlfriend. Feeling justified in the killing of these men that exploit women, she doesn't stop there. This film received critical acclaim for Charlize Theron's incredible portrayal of Aileen with her borderline personality disorder. So, although I don't know that this is everyone's cup of tea from a woman love woman perspective, because let's just say it doesn't end well, it's one of those films that made a real impact in the mainstream with lesbians at its center, and it is a really good film. Peter Jackson's breakthrough film, Heavenly Creatures, is based on a real-life story of two teen girls who develop an obsessive relationship that turns dark when the parents, concerned, try to pull them apart. They are not there for that and instead hatch a plan to get rid of Pauline's mother. It's a twisted tale with strong echoes of Peter Jackson's earlier work in horror. It's certainly not positive representation, but it's a fascinating interpretation of what was going on in the minds of these girls, and in all honesty, this echoes the type of framing lesbian representation was getting back in the day. Which is such a different kind of take from the Fair Trilogy, based off the book series where Part 1 and 2 centre around a lesbian love story. In Part 1, Dina and Sam recently broke up because Sam is not ready to be out of the closet, but their feelings are still very present. So when there is a murder spree by what is considered to be the curse of the witch from centuries before, Sarah Friar, Dina and Sam are drawn together. In the third part, we get to see what led to the events of the curse, which has a strong sapphic thread running through it. This has elements of body horror and slasher in it, and while it isn't my thing, the gay stuff is, and I think that this movie stands out within the genre. It's weird, it's twisted, and it doesn't necessarily make total sense, but at its center this film is about a young girl coming to Hollywood hoping for stardom and gets embroiled in the mystery of who her new friend Rita is. And there is definitely a sapphic overtone to the relationship. It's a mind-bending foray to stimulate the mind with two attractive women at the center. I think that makes it essential viewing. Bound is a neo-noir thriller directed by none other than the Wachowski sisters of The Matrix fame, and follows Violet, who is desperate to get away from her mafioso boyfriend. When she meets Corky, an ex-con, Violet is immediately drawn to her. They begin an affair and, along with it, a plan to run away together. But not before they steal a couple of $1 million. It's a sexy film and the leads have excellent chemistry, and you just know that if the Wachowski sisters are at the helm, it's going to be a good film. Moving on to dramas. While it's very problematic having a teacher and a student in a relationship, we Saphics don't seem to care too much, and so Loving Annabelle has made its way into classicdom. It's got that mid-2000 indie vibe about it, where Annabelle comes to a new school and sets her eyes on the teacher, who, against her better judgment, returns those feelings. But yeah, it won't end well because they get discovered and there are consequences. A less problematic age gap, because at least they're both adults here. Carol, of course, had to make it onto this list. Based on a novel that had the distinction of being the first lesbian story in fiction to give us a happy ending, it's a sumptuous movie that lingers in the emotions of the affair between Carol and Thérèse, with beautiful shots, lingering gazes, and a palpable connection between the leads. When Carol forgets her glove, I would say on purpose, at the department store that Thérèse works at, they connect and a slow burn romance develops. However, Carol is married and the custody of her child is at stake. With the critical acclaim that this movie got, it's a film that wasn't just popular with the woman love woman crowd, but with mainstream too. Similarly, Portrait of a Lady on Fire received critical acclaim for its fresh take on the lesbian period drama. It's a film that tries to throw off the typical conflict narrative pervasive in Western filmmaking and lingered in the space not often explored, making it something interesting not just to the queer audience but to mainstream too. Moving into a very different realm of film, The Truth About Jane was a Lifetime made-for-TV movie which, at the time it came out, had a powerful impact on its Woman Love Women audience. It follows Jane, who realizes that she's different when she falls for a girl, but her mother doesn't take it well. It's a film that dwells in the coming-out narrative that perhaps today may seem very done, but at the time it had real resonance, and I think it still holds an important place in cinematic history and for people who are still experiencing these issues in their own lives today. Yolanda is a studious girl from a strict background who strikes up a friendship with the girl who moves in next door. Their feelings deepen, leading to jealousies that threaten their relationship. This is the kind of coming-of-age film that is quiet and unassuming, but below the surface of what isn't spoken, there is an undertow of powerful emotion that swirls between the girls. It's a beautiful film, well done, and well worth a watch. Desert Hearts was a groundbreaking film for its time. While The Price of Salt was the first book to give a happy ending, for films it was Desert Hearts in 1985. Set in the 1950s, Vivian is coming off a divorce and in need of a change of scenery. In doing so, she comes across the young and wild Kay. There is a chemistry between them, and while it's scary and new, it's something that she ultimately wants to explore. It's a film that is a pleasure to watch, seminal in the lesbian film canon. Rated as one of my personal top films of all time, Fire is a story of two sister-in-laws who are in loveless relationships. When Sita arrives on the back of her arranged marriage, only to find that her husband is in love and having a relationship with a woman his family would never approve of, she turns to Radha for comfort. Radha has been married for years, but her husband is practicing celibacy, something she's put up with. With their developing attachment, the two women find solace in each other. It's such a beautiful film, layered with rich themes about rebirth, passion, and love, and, in my opinion, a must-watch. I dubiously put this movie on this list because it's not a film I personally like, but it did receive a lot of mainstream attention at Cannes at the time due to its pretty graphic sex scenes. While I feel it was pretty exploitative and full of the male gaze, it is to some people's taste, and it may be to yours. Either way, it's a rare film that has broken out beyond the cloistered sphere of lesbian cinema, and for that, I guess it's essential watching. Which is also how I feel about The Handmaiden, an adaptation of the book Fingersmith by queer author Sarah Waters. There are a lot of people in the community who love this film, but again, not so much my vibe. It revolves around Suki, who is roped into posing as a handmaiden for Lady Hideko in order to trick her mistress into the madhouse. Only the two girls fall in love, and well, that changes everything. While it's clearly based off the novel, it diverges in some key ways. I did a video about what my issues with The Handmaiden are, so click on that title card if you're curious. Having said that, I do think that, like Blue is the Warmest Colour, it is a film that is essential viewing if you want a comprehensive education in woman love woman cinema. A much more palatable movie to my taste is The Half of It. While this is explicitly framed as not a love story but one of friendship, it follows Ellie and how her friendship with Paul finds her writing love letters on his behalf to the girl that she also has a crush on. Made by Alice Wu, who also made Saving Face, featured in part 1 of the series, this is a wonderful coming-of-age movie that deserves a spot on this list. This indie outing follows Cheryl, an aspiring filmmaker who is working in a video store and is making a documentary about black actresses in early films who were often omitted from credits and frequently were relegated to the mammy role. Through her research, she uncovers an actress who is credited only as the Watermelon Woman, and she's determined to find out who this actress was. As she works on this documentary, she also meets and starts a relationship with Diana. It's a seminal movie for black representation in woman love woman film at a time when the few voices were almost uniquely white. This powerful film follows baby butch Alike, who is struggling under the confines of the expectation of her family. Forced to hide who she is, it is a journey of fully stepping into her queerness and taking control of her life, even if her family can't and won't support who she is and her dreams. A powerful film. While there isn't a lot of woman love woman content that predates the 1980s, there are a few films that do touch on Sapphic themes, and while it's to be expected that they don't end well because everything pre-1985 wasn't a happy ending, they still are worth a watch. When two best friends and teachers who run a private school are falsely accused of being lesbians by a bratty student, the rumours quickly spread and threatened not just their livelihood but their relationships. The thing is that the rumour is not entirely unfounded because one of them, in fact, is harbouring a secret, one that she can barely admit even to herself. It stars the stunning Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine in a powerful film. It doesn't end well, but it is essential viewing. Also set in a boarding school, this film is full of so much lesbian under, over and through tones. Honestly, is everyone gay in this film? I'm not complaining. Olivia, the new student, arrives where two of the teachers are pitted against each other in a very Sapphic way, and where students have picked sides. Olivia quickly becomes a favourite of Mademoiselle Cara, and in return, Olivia begins to fall for her. This film seems to be pretty heavily influenced by the next film I'm about to discuss. This is credited as being the first lesbian film, and yes, it is from 1931. Before the haze codes that put a real dampener on queer film making, this bold film, adapted from a stage play, follows Manuela as she arrives at a new school. Like most of her fellow students, she quickly develops a fondness for Fräulein von Bernberg, but her feelings take a deeper bent. Her feelings overwhelm her, and it all comes to a head. There is also a 1958 version of the film, which is my personal favourite of the two, but both of these films, I feel, are essential watching. I would love to hear what films you think should have gotten a spot and which films you feel shouldn't have. I'll also be posting a list of essential lesbian TV moments and shows that are, if you ask me, required Women Love Women viewing. Until next time, lady lovers.